Back again today, trying to figure this out without glasses on. Today, I want to talk about some ideas on relationships. The bulk of my work is dealing with relationships, my psychic reading stuff that I do. Most people are calling about relationships. And I wrote a book, Mystical Empress Magical Relationships, back in 2018. And it talks about energy, quantum physics, and manifesting techniques when it comes to all kinds of relationships. Today, I don't really want to talk about romantic relationships. I'd rather talk about friendships, family, co-workers, I guess, could be in there. But this is more, it's closer, more intimate relationships. They're just not romantic. And the reason I want to talk about it, as you can tell, I love fire a lot. And it's wintertime, and I enjoy getting to sit in front of a fireplace and just stare at it for hours. But anyway, I get a lot of calls from people who they get really upset when people don't want to interact with them. They take it as a personal slight when, like, say they want to get close to their sister, or they have this friend that they'd really like to spend more time with, whatever. Or say their mother seems to favor their brother more than she does her daughter. People take this very personally because they think, well, something must be wrong with me. I'm being as nice as I can be. I'm trying to get along with this person. I'm calling, I'm texting. Nothing's happening. I've had people like that in my life. And when I was a kid, probably up into my 20s, before I started understanding energy, I did take it personally, like a lot of these people do. And it's not personal. Feels personal, but it's actually about energy. You're either a match or you're not. If you're not a match, you can turn cartwheels, you can send them a dozen roses, you can, twist yourself up into a pretzel to see and talk to this person. But if you're not a match, you're not a match. And often that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. It just depends on what side of the vibrational scale you're on. If you're depressed all the time and the person you're trying to interact with is happy, it's not going to pan out because you're not a match. Vice versa, if you're on top of the world and you're trying to deal with somebody that is angry all the time, or it can be anything. But the main factor is the vibrational matching. People come together when they match each other. And it's nothing personal between people. It's just you gravitate where you feel comfortable. And you avoid, if you're somewhat healthy, you avoid where you feel bad, where you don't feel things are gelling. Feels like nails on a chalkboard. So, I've coached, counseled, consulted, whatever word you want to use, so many people in this position. I've seen daughters, angry their whole lives because their mother favored one of her other children. And I'm like, just drop it. Drop that desire. Move on to something more productive. But no, these people want to hang on and be angry their whole lives and feel resentful and whatever. And I just think that's wasted energy. We got a lot more things to do on this planet than pine away for somebody who doesn't want the same things we want. And I guess that can be in romantic too. I get clients that are pining away for men for, I have one, she was all about this married guy for like 20 years of her life. She never got married. She had very light relationships and just kind of hoped one day he would see her in that way, and he never did. And so it's best to recognize this in the early stages so that you don't have to go through a lot of grief over it. In the light of people, like in families, it could be your sister, whoever, and you just try to build this relationship and it doesn't happen. Well, I've often found on the other side, when you go back and look, with a clear head and not this longing, go back and you look and you see the person realistically, you're like, damn, there's no way we could have been close because she's like this, I'm like this. It just wasn't going to work out. And then you feel better. But in the case of family dynamics, particularly siblings, when a parent favors one of the siblings, in a family, when there are multiple children, each child plays a role for the family. One child plays the black sheep. One child plays the perfect child that does everything that the family deems as a good family member. And what happens is that in their soul planning of their lifetime, they come in and they're like, okay, I'm going to carry this negativity for the family. I'm going to carry the positivity. And if the people involved could pull back and see the role, because all people in the cast, I always use plays as my metaphor for these things, but everybody's cast with a specific role. And you need those different roles to make a whole. So when you've got that sibling, let's say you've got that family member that's an addict and they drink all the time and you can't rely on them. They've hurt, mom and dad, they've hurt everybody. Everybody, is a little scared about what the person's going to do next because they're just so unpredictable and chaotic. Again, that person is carrying the weight of repressed, unexpressed energy for the unit. Same thing with the star, the golden child that does everything, ideally as far as what the parents would want. Another thing I would like to talk about is pets, because what I've watched happen in the last, 10, 15 years, I'd say about 15 years, people have started making their pets their children. And I know that animals can act like they have human characteristics, etc. And in some cases, I wonder if they are, I got a cat that acts very much like a human. He kind of acts insulted if you treat him like a cat. But I've never treated him like my child because I don't want to project human junk onto an animal. Animals don't have the level of consciousness and the coping mechanisms that humans have. I read animals, some people will call me, want me to read their cats, their dogs, their horse. Trying to think if there's any other kinds of animals I've read. I think the horse, the dog, and the cat are the three main ones that I've read. But these poor creatures, they have a fairly simple life: eat, sleep, uh, procreate if they're not fixed, play when possible. Um, they do like some stimulation, some variety in their lives, but they don't need to hold your grief, your depression, your anger. Uh, so many animals across the board are going to exhibit the owner's personality traits. That's a given. If you are a raging man and you got a dog, chances are your dog's going to be very aggressive. If you're an insecure woman, chances are your cat or your dog's going to be incredibly needy and clingy. My cat, I'm very strong on boundaries. I can't do clingy because it drains me. And for that reason, I stay away from dogs, because dogs are clingy to me. They're very needy for energy. My cat, he's very strong with his boundaries. He doesn't want people picking him up and touching him. And he draws that boundary and he lets people know. And humans, for some reason, don't respect animals' boundaries. And the cat's hissing and scratching at them, and they keep coming in. Oh, let me touch you. And the cat's pissed. And the dog would be too if he'd already drawn that boundary. Now the phone's going to start ringing. So your cat or your dog or your horse or whatever, they're going to reveal personality characteristics of you. And I personally, as a psychic and as a pet owner, as someone who studies energy, I would advise people to not treat their pets like a human, like a little person. Treat them like a beast, because that's what they are. They're an animal. And that way you take some pressure off of them, because a lot of times, they will knock, especially if it's a dog, they will knock themselves out trying to please you. And most humans can't be pleased. So the animals, they're very, very sensitive to energy. You can watch energy in the house via your pet. You can watch them with other people, how they react. They're very sensitive. And they don't typically try to force relationships. They just leave it be. And humans need to be that way. If something's not coming together, there's a reason, and it's probably a pretty good reason. When you find that, gravitate towards the places that you naturally blend, that it's a smooth flow. You've got your girlfriends, you got your family members where it's just easy. And that means that everybody's on the same wavelength. When it's not easy, you can try to I'm not talking about situations where you have a fight and then you got to work it out and don't want about your business. I'm talking about long-term situations, because I get a lot of these calls where people call me, well, I've done everything I can all these years and she just doesn't want to be close to me. And I'm like, okay, drop it. Go somewhere where they want to be close to you, where they can appreciate your gifts. In my case, a lot of times, not a lot of times, but seldom. No, I'd put it in the middle. Occasionally, that's a good word. Occasionally, I will run into someone that does not want to be around me, like they're really uncomfortable around me, and I suspect or intuitively know that they don't want to be known. And even without being a psychic, I read people very well. I always have. I've always been psychic, but I'm very attuned to human psychology and the motivations, the agendas. I see it really quick. I don't run around trying to read people. This isn't a parlor trick. I'm not in a circus. I don't do that. But as far as just getting a vibe for somebody, as soon as I get around them, I mean, it's like looking at their face for me. It's not like I'm having to probe for it. And people who don't want to be known or people who have things to hide, they generally don't want to be around me. Also, people who live in like a fantasy world, because I'm not real. I love fantasy. I got Pisces rising. How could I not? But I've also got a lot of Capricorn and Scorpio, and we're realist. And I call a spade a spade. And if you're the type of person that you want to live in, cotton candy and unicorns and rainbows, everything's perfect all the time, I'm not your girl. And so when somebody avoids me like that, I don't get offended. I'm just like, I mean, when I was a kid, yeah, it hurt my feelings really bad. I mean, I would really worry about it. But now I'm just like, okay, this means we're not a match. And I move on. I don't hang on to it. Another thing that I've noticed is people they have different relating styles. Some people, they want to be super close. I want to talk every day. I want to see you a lot. We need to see each other once a month or once a week so we can have this close friendship. I have noticed in my life, things start getting kind of sticky when I'm that close to somebody because I'm empathic. I lose myself. And the relationships that I have that have worked the best for me are with people at a distance. And then that way, the distance provides the buffer. We're not, there may be one or two people I talk to every day, but for the most part, I don't talk to people every day because I don't want to be swirled in with their energy. And the more intuitive, the more empathic you are, that happens whether you like it or not. Just being around people, you tend to blend into them. And people who are empathic, that means you automatically feel what other people are feeling. You automatically take on their personalities and their mannerisms. If you're Scorpio, Cancer, or Pisces, Sun, Moon, Rising, if you have the Moon or Neptune in the first house or on an angle, 1, 4, 7, or 10, or if you have a packed 12th house or a packed 8th house. I know most of you watching this probably aren't astrologers, but I'm just giving you some clues. If you have any of that going on, you're going to be empathic and you can't help it. And so the really interesting thing is when you've been in a close relationship, like best friends, and you talk all the time, you see each other, or you have been married or roommates with somebody, you lose your energy and you forget what you feel like and who you are. And it's interesting when it separates out because then it's like, big breath. It's like, wow, I had no idea how much that person impacted me. And it's like, I can't believe it. I was acting like this and I was thinking like that, and that isn't even who I really am. And so I'm a great proponent of space with people because I need to be able to separate out, figure out what Cheris is feeling, what Cheris needs, and then we'll come back a little later. But, these are other things to consider when someone's not in your life or when they're not as close as you'd like them to be. I have a lot of Aquarian friends. We may not talk, but once a year. And it's never weird. I love that. I mean, we can talk maybe once a month, once every 6 months, once a year. And when we come back together, it's like we just pick right back up like we never missed a beat. There's no, well, you haven't called me. There's none of that. It's just cool. It's chill. And, so that's the kind of relationships I do my best in. Other people, they want to be, doing everything together and all that. And I will say this little hint for you. If you are intuitive or sensitive or empathic, watch how close you get to friends, especially if you're single. Because what I've noticed is they can only have like one significant close relationship at a time because that's all they have to offer. They get drained. And if you get too close when you're like that to someone, in a platonic relationship, you may stay single for quite a while. I had that situation years ago. I was single for like 6 years. And I had one super, super close friend. And that's another thing I need to say. When you're an empath, when you're intuitive, closeness can become codependency real easy on both parts, your part, their part. Well, anyway, this friendship, completely platonic, was super close, super codependent. And typically, what I do when I find myself in that situation, I eventually break free. That's just me. What I do. Can't help it. I start feeling suffocated and smothered. Then I get mad and then I break loose. So, anyway, I broke free of that relationship. But I'd been single 6 years. And 3 months after I did that, I met my husband. And I started thinking over my life. I was like, okay, every time I have been that close to a female, I've been single. I have never been that close to a friend, male or female, that close, and actually been in a relationship. If I get to that place and I am in a relationship and then the friendship comes in, it usually means that the relationship's not on the best foundation. Because when I am relating to, say, a lover, a romantic person, interest, I don't have all that energy to pour into somebody else. So these are things to consider. If you're somebody that naturally flows into other people, be very selective about who you let get close to you. Because if you're around somebody and you yourself very intuitive, very sensitive, and you're around somebody that's very angry, that's dramatic, that's conflictual, confrontational, that can really mess with you. I've become much more clear about what I let in my life doing the work that I do. I can't be in turmoil in my personal life and be any good to my clients. If I was dramatic, if I was always having conflict, if I was always depressed, whatever, I'd be a nutcase and I would be projecting a lot of crap onto my people who call me. And the people who call me help. They don't need to sit there and figure out my stuff with me. And also, another part about it is if I was full of my own junk, then I wouldn't be clear to receive accurate information for other people. The night that my husband died, or that day when I was at the hospital, uh, I knew what was happening. I was very aware, within 10 minutes of walking in the hospital doors, I knew what was going to happen. And the whole time I was connecting to God, connecting to the Holy Trinity, and trying to stay calm and present, focused, because I needed to get information. I needed to get information from a higher realm, and I knew I couldn't do that if I was all tore up and crying and screaming and fighting what the now moment was presenting to me. I had to surrender into it. And so that's how I handle my work. I take my work very seriously. Gift from God, and I have to be respectful with that energy, and I have to be respectful with my people's problems and their time and their money. So I don't try, I do. I stay in as calm of a situation in my life as possible so that I can receive accurate guidance for myself as well as others, and I can stay sane. And so there's a lot of energy factors happening within relationships. Anytime you come together with another human being, you are dealing with energy, whether you can see it, hear it, feel it, whatever. It's all about energy. And when energy doesn't flow together, it butts and then separates. So if you find yourself, and as we grow, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said something about their friends, and I said, well, friendships change. They were saying that there was a mutual party in their friendships, and they couldn't be around their old friends anymore because this mutual party was there and they were enemies. And I'm like, okay, friends change. There have been so many people to come and go in my life, and I'm cool with that. I'm used to that. I mean, I was fostered as a child. Um, I understand the non-permanence of relationships. And so when people go, I say, okay, well, we stop being a match. Their vibration's over there, mine's over here. It's not coming together anymore. When people come in, every time somebody comes into my life, I always, okay, what's this person's dominant factor? I often look at their sun sign, and I say, okay, that's an Aries. At the moment right now, I've got Aries all around me. So I'm like, okay, what do Aries bring in? They bring in beginnings, courage, bravery, leadership, independence. All factors that I'm dealing with in my life right now. So whenever someone comes in, I look to see, what is this person mirroring to me that I need to work on in myself, develop. If they're problematic and they come in, I'm like, okay, what is this clarifying that I need to work on in myself? What do I need to look at? Um, you know, so every person in your life, whether it's your daughter, whether it's your best friend, whether it's your husband, your cousin, whoever, everyone you relate to is a mirror of you. If they're doing something that gets on your nerves, then look at yourself and say, okay, where am I like this in my life? Because you cannot attract what you aren't. When they leave, you say, okay, that lesson may be finished, unless person number 2 comes along and brings it back, which often happens. We get these repeating themes that we can't get away from that keep coming back. But just recognize, if someone's not there, they may not have the lessons you need to learn. Maybe you're learning them from someone else or something else. I just think it's a lot of wasted energy and time when we dwell on what's not working. You know, if it doesn't work, move on to something that does work. You can't put a square peg in a round hole. You just can't do it. And, there are people in our lives that we love that we don't want to walk away from. So we try to make it work. And in those situations, rather than trying to make it work like this, make it work like this. Hey, I see you across the fence. I'm over here. Good to see you. How you doing? Okay, I gotta go. Bye. Bye. Instead of making that, we have a problem. Look at that and say, okay, there's a reason, there's a distance there, and I'm going to trust that. But, some of you, I've seen relatives do this. Some of you have this ideal version of what the relationship's supposed to be. And if you can't have that version, then you're going to sulk, you're going to be passive aggressive, you're going to be catty, you're gonna act foolish. And every time I talk to somebody like that, every single time I listen to them complain. I had this woman once. She was so damn angry at her mother because her mother was never the mother she wanted her to be. This woman was in her 50s when we had this talk, okay? She was so damn angry. And I was like, are you around your mom very frequently? Oh, yeah. And I said, well, don't you think with all this rage you're carrying for this woman that that's not the most comfortable relationship for your, elderly mother to be in? And, she just went on and on. I heard every wrong thing this woman had ever done in her entire life to her daughter. And I told her, I said, look, you either need to clean this up, forgive this woman, and be her friend. You're not a 6-year-old little girl anymore. That's in the past. If you can't do that, you need to get some space from her, because all you're doing energetically, when someone's angry at you or resentful towards you or jealous of you, just insert any negative word you want to put in there, and they keep trying to interact with you, it poisons the relationship because the energy is so damn toxic. If both of you were honest, you would admit that. And if I was in there, if it was me, I'd call a spade a spade. I'd say, look, I recognize you're being aggressive towards me. What's this about? Just tell me how you feel and we'll work on it. But all this sniping, no, it's not healthy. And if you resent the person so much that you can't be nice and cordial when you're interacting with them, don't interact. Seems pretty logical to me, but apparently that's a big mystery for most people because they'd rather be around somebody and be nasty than be nice. Yeah, we all have our fights and we all have our disagreements, but the healthy thing to do is just come right out and say it. I always want somebody to be upfront with me. I was raised in a home with an alcoholic that was extremely unhealthy, my foster dad. I never knew from one minute to the next if I was going to be in trouble. When I came home from school, I didn't know if World War III was about to happen. I never knew what would get me in trouble, and I never knew when I would get in trouble. And now I will not be around anyone that I have to psychically decipher every time I talk to them if it's about to be World War III. Because it makes, for me as an empath, it makes me sick, like physically ill. I get very nauseous because I get anxious. I get anxiety and I feel nauseous. And I get that adrenaline in my stomach like you get when you're about to get in trouble. And I absolutely refuse to live like that for anybody. I was married to a guy that made me feel that way. I won't do that ever again in my life. And so, if you feel that way towards somebody, give both yourselves a break and back off because it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable. It's not healthy. But yeah, and a fun fact, when you're raised in an environment like that, you become very psychic because your survival counts on you being able to read body language, to read comments, to read atmospheric pressure, even. Does it feel heavy in this room? Does it feel light? What did he just say? How long did he sigh after he said it? What was that look he gave me? How's he holding his arms? Is his legs crossed? You become extremely adept at reading people when you live in that kind of situation. And honestly, I have a very, 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 very small, I wouldn't even call it a group of people I consider friends. Everybody else I consider acquaintances. And part of it's because I cannot spread myself that thin. But anyone who's around me regularly, they have their bad days. But if I pick up the phone today, pick up the phone next week, I'm going to get the same person. I am not going to have to wonder, well, I wonder why she didn't call me back. I wonder if she's mad at me. I wonder if, she hates me now. I don't go through any of that. I don't. And I feel sorry for any of you watching this that go through that. In a way, I feel sorry for you, but in another way, it's your own fault for tolerating it. You walk away from it. You don't live on a battlefield where there's buried mines everywhere and you don't know when you're going to step on one. Oh my God, am I going to step on one if I say this? Am I going to step on one if I don't do that? That is no way to live. So anyway, I guess I've spoke my piece on what I was thinking about because I have several of these situations that anytime I do a video or whatever, I'm thinking about clients and friends and people that I know that may be having these situations. And, life brings me material to speak about. So I hope somebody out there can use this information. Maybe feel sane, maybe let someone go that's been, weighing on you. Whatever. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your time and your attention. And when I figure out something else I want to talk about, I'll shoot another video. Now let me figure out where this button's at to turn this off. Bye-bye.